1800 hours Pakistan Standard Time. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Daman Zaman. The headlines. The Prime Minister has categorically ruled out the possibility of allowing use of Pakistani bases or territory for action of any sort in Afghanistan. Pakistan and Malaysia have reached a consensus to adopt a joint strategy to raise voice against Islamophobia at World Fora. The Information Minister says the government is working on legislation to make Gilgit-Baltistan an interim province of the country as it is geographically significant for CPAC. As the world observes the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pakistan has reiterated its call for an end to sexual crimes against the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Hurriyat leaders have urged the United Nations to take cognizance of the grave human rights violations in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir as the occupying forces are using rape as a weapon of war to suppress the Kashmiris' ongoing freedom struggle. Saudi-led coalition has destroyed 8 armed drones launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards Khamis Mushait city. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Imran Khan has categorically stated that Pakistan will absolutely not allow any bases and use of its territory for any sort of action inside Afghanistan. In an interview with an American television, HBO, he said there is no way we are going to allow any bases, any sort of action from Pakistani territory into Afghanistan. In an excerpt of the interview shared on Axios website to be aired tomorrow, the interviewer Jonathan Swan questions, would you allow the American government to have CIA in Pakistan to conduct cross-border counter-terrorism missions? The Prime Minister replied, absolutely not. Recently, in his address at the Senate floor, the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi had also ruled out the possibility of providing its military bases to the United States for counter-terrorism operations in Afghanistan. Prime Minister Imran Khan has felicitated Ibrahim Raisi on his election as the President of Iran. In a tweet today, he said, we look forward to working with him for further strengthening our fraternal ties and regional peace, progress and prosperity. The Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says Pakistan has been advocating responsible withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan. In an interview with Turkish television TRT World, he said Pakistan is keen to see that peace process advances in tandem with the withdrawal. Expressing concern over disconnection between peace process and the withdrawal, the foreign minister said peace process is moving ahead at snail's pace, but withdrawal is underway rapidly. He said Pakistan has been facilitating the Afghan peace process, but it is a shared responsibility of the global players. Expressing concern over the rising violence in Afghanistan, he said violence is not just linked with the Taliban, but it is beyond them and there are other spoilers who have their own designs and motives. He said internal struggles are going on within Afghanistan and the overall situation is complicated there. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and his Kuwaiti counterpart Dr. Ahmad Nasser Al Mohammed As Sabah have agreed to devise a comprehensive plan for sustainable strategic partnership between the two countries. The understanding came during a meeting held on the sidelines of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum in Turkey today. The foreign ministers expressed the resolve to make joint efforts to enhance bilateral cooperation in diverse fields. They also agreed to promote bilateral cooperation on regional and international fora. Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan is ready to assist Kuwait in food security. Talking to his Malaysian counterpart Hishamuddin Hussain on the sidelines of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum in Turkey today, The Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan desires to further strengthen strategic partnership with Malaysia with enhanced cooperation in trade, defence cooperation and technology transfer. The two foreign ministers reached a consensus to adopt a joint strategy to raise voice against Islamophobia at world fora, including the OIC and the United Nations. The President, Dr. Arif Alvi, has called for the need to have control in meeting the Human Development Index and Vision 2030 targets. The Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Chaudhry Fawad Hussain, says the incumbent government provided 300 billion rupees for Gilgit-Baltistan to improve its infrastructure. Talking to media persons at the Skardu Press Club today, he said the government is also working on legislation to make Gilgit-Baltistan an interim province of the country. He said commencement of new flights by the Pakistan International Airlines in Skardu will help promote tourism in the region. The minister said our enemies have been devising conspiracies, but people of Gilgit-Baltistan feel them associated with Pakistan. He said Gilgit-Baltistan has a great significance in China-Pakistan economic corridor because of its geographical location. This is Radio Pakistan. As the world observes the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence and Conflict, Pakistan has reiterated its call for an end to sexual crimes against the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry, in a statement, said life continues to be a double-edged sword for women, girls and children living in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. He deplored that not only they have to survive under the occupation with their fundamental rights curtailed and suppressed, but also endure the threat of sexual violence and rape used to silence them from demanding the legitimate inalienable right to self-determination guaranteed under the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions. The spokesperson said, on this day we must not forget the brave people of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir who have been facing egregious human rights violations at the hands of the Indian occupation forces. He said since 5th of August 2019, sexual violence against all genders, including children, has drastically increased. The spokesperson said the international community must take cognizance of the sexual crimes against the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and call upon India to respect its international obligations, especially those related to the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions and the Fourth Geneva Convention. In the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, women are the worst victims of Indian forces' barbarities as India is using rape as a weapon of war to suppress Kashmiri's ongoing freedom struggle. An analytical report released by the Kashmir Media Service on the occasion of the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence and Conflict today revealed that Indian forces personnel have sexually assaulted over 11,240 women during the past 3 decades in the occupied territory. It said India is deliberately targeting women in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to humiliate and terrorize the Kashmiris. Hurriyat leaders and organizations in the statements have urged the United Nations to take cognizance of the grave human rights violations being committed by the Indian troops in the occupied territory. The United Nations says the United States, instead of recognizing its own violations of human rights, criticizes other countries with biased human rights application. In an email interview to Xinhua News, the director of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, Jeffrey Sachs, said all countries should strive to honor and achieve human rights identified in the United Nations Charter. Palestine has cancelled a vaccine swap deal with Israel. In a statement, the Palestinian Authority spokesman Ibrahim Melham said initial delivery of about 90,000 doses failed to conform to the specifications contained in the agreement. Ibrahim Melham said Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh refused to receive the vaccines that are about to expire. Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen destroyed 8 armed drones launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards Khamis Mashhad city of the kingdom today. In Russia, 7 people were killed and 13 others injured when a plane crash landed in Kemerovo Oblast city in southwestern Siberia today. And now cricket. In the Pakistan Super League against Quetta Gladiators at Abu Dhabi, Karachi Kings were 7 runs for the loss of no wicket in 1 over a short while ago. Earlier, the Karachi Kings won the toss and decided to bat. The second match will be played between Islamabad United and Multan Sultans at the same venue at 2300 hours Pakistan Standard Time. And finally, the weather. Mainly hot and dry weather is expected in most plain areas of the country during the next 12 hours. However, rain with wind thunderstorm is expected at isolated places in Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit-Baltistan, Kashmir and its adjoining hilly areas. And that is the end of this news bulletin. For more news and analyses, log on to our website, radio.gov.pk, and you can also watch the live video streaming of our bulletins on the link facebook.com/Radio Pakistan News.